Now, here on Weekend Breakfast, we've been focusing on the rising cost of living. It'll be one of the key issues in the looming federal budget and the federal election. And today we're looking at the price spikes in one of life's most basic necessities, food. Many families are finding their grocery budgets aren't stretching as far as they normally would. The war in Ukraine and recent floods are putting pressure on suppliers. Fresh vegetables are scarce, even frozen veggies are in short supply. We saw this week that fresh broccoli jumped to $7 a kilo. Potatoes and cabbage are other examples of veggies that have increased in price by a whopping 75% in some supermarkets, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. This hike could last at least 6 months. Now, Woolies has flagged its shelf prices overall could rise 2 to 3%. It's upped retail prices on red meat and packaged grocery lines following wholesale cost increases from its suppliers. But it's noted that some items are still staying low, such as avocados and also chicken. And as we reported last week, manufacturers SPC, they've announced a rare rise in the cost of its tinned goods.
Well, let's unpack this further now with our panel. Nicole Constable runs a national program on healthy eating and affordable cooking at OzHarvest, and Lina Jebeile is a food stylist and photographer at the Lebanese Plate. Good morning to both of you.
Hello.
Lina, I want to start with you. You're a mum of 4. I wonder if you felt an immediate impact on that cost of living expenses and the pressures.
Yeah, look, everything is definitely getting a lot more expensive, and having quite a few mouths around the dinner table to feed. We really are all starting to feel the pinch.
Nicole, has the appetite for affordable cooking changed? Have you seen it exacerbated with this situation we're in right now?
Yes, definitely. We see participants that come to our Nest program weekly saying that because of the rising cost of living and fuel prices, that they're just having to make a decision between what they're buying at the grocery store, and they're needing to stretch their budgets so they can feed their families.
Lina, I wonder if you're hearing something similar in your community and where you're going with the Lebanese Plate.
Yeah, look, a lot of families are really struggling. Things are getting really expensive. The petrol prices are insane. My family's actually been in ISO the last couple of weeks. So part of it is like, well, thank goodness for that, because we didn't have to go and come and have to fill up petrol with those crazy prices. It's really tough on a lot of families out there. It really is.
What are you being told? What are people saying that they're going to do as a result of all these extra challenges?
People are a lot more conscious about where they're going, about what they're buying, what they're cooking, where they're shopping as well. So people are thinking a lot more about it, whereas previously we didn't have those conversations as often, whereas this is at the top of everybody's minds right now.
On that note, Nicole, I wonder if you've seen any correlation on cost of living pressures and changes in eating habits and healthy eating habits.
Definitely. I think people are starting to get creative with their meals. They would normally not use legumes such as lentils and chickpeas and things. They would normally go for those meat and poultry options, but now they're having to get creative. They're having to use those tinned cans of lentils and chickpeas, or use things such as eggs and frozen veggies to make meals that are going to stretch out to feed their family and cost a lot less than the typical meat and chicken type dishes.
And so what sort of extra pressure do you think it'll put, given that we just heard Joe talking about some of those companies that do tinned foods having to put up their prices as well?
Definitely. I think people are feeling stressed. They're feeling the pinch. I even know me as a full-time worker, I'm feeling the pinch, not to mention those people that are living on income support. So it means they're going to the shops and they're really having to think about what they cook, and they're having to have smaller portion sizes, really, so that their serving sizes are smaller and their meals stretch out more so they can have leftovers for the next day.
And it's reminded me of some stories that I've heard and reporting in recent years, those people that were already on the edge, deciding that they needed to skip meals because they simply couldn't afford to have 3 square meals a day. In terms of what might be some of the solutions, let's shift gears and see if you've got tips around saving money. Lina, I'll start with you. Is there anything that springs to mind?
Oh, look, buying in bulk, I have started doing that quite a bit, not just recently, but I've been doing that for quite some time. So buying in bulk, not only my dry, pantry essentials, but also buying meat in bulk too, which I kind of had to do out of necessity because I need a halal butcher, which I don't have a local one. So the butcher I go to is not really close to home. So I resorted to buying meat in bulk, but I've also found it to be a lot cheaper and I can get good quality meat, store it well in my freezer, and then it lasts for maybe 2 or 3 months. Also, eating less meat, really. I think it's made me a lot more conscious about the amount of meat that we're eating. I think that's something that we all really should think about and be a lot more conscious of how much we're adding into our diet. We rely a lot on, and I've really found when meat started to get a lot more expensive, I found that my family, and when I'm cooking for my family, I do rely on whether it's meat or poultry being a part of that dish. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting how obsessed we've become with eating meat. And like Nicole was saying, there are so many amazing dishes that you can make with chickpeas or lentils or things like that, and really bulk up a dish and have a really great, yummy, hearty dish that could also last more than a day. I think eating leftovers is another essential for me, and it's always a part of my meal planning for that week, because sometimes I don't have time to cook every single day, and there are some meals that just work perfectly as leftovers the next day. So I think that's another really helpful thing for families to do. Start bulking up their foods with things other than meat and make it last for more than a day.
Yeah, and where you pointed out buying in bulk, cooking in bulk is also the other side of that coin, isn't it? And I know that point about cutting meat out, that's what happens in our house. My partner has cut meat out of a whole range of dishes and putting more vegetables in as a way of trying to pack nutrients in. Nicole, what about you, tips for saving money?
I always say buy on special, look what's on special, look for those yellow tags in the supermarket and shop accordingly. So buy in season, so fruit and veggies, buy in season. If that's too expensive as well, buy frozen. You can buy good quality frozen fruits and vegetables that have got the same nutrient value as the fresh produce. Another thing is get creative with your meals. So as we were speaking about, relying on the meat and poultry, instead try and use some lentils or some chickpeas, or in that spaghetti bolognese, put a can of beans in there to just stretch that meal, to make that meal go further. Another thing I always suggest is use it up. Use what's in your pantry, your fridge and your freezer before going to the grocery store, so you're only shopping for what you really need.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Lina Jebeile from the Lebanese Plate and Nicole Constable from OzHarvest, thanks so much for joining us and for the work you're doing in this advocacy arena, particularly as things are getting tougher. We really value it, and great to have you along today.
Thanks for having us.